Have you ever wondered what separates a good experience from a truly unforgettable one when it comes to oral play? Whether you're a beginner or looking to level up your skills, today's episode is all about mastering the art of fellatio with confidence and creativity. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to Not Safe for Brunch. In this podcast, we're here to bring sex, insight, and real-world education to the table unapologetically. Think about it as having those important, unfiltered brunch conversations with your closest friends about sex, relationships, and everything in between. With over 55 years of experience combined in the intimacy industry, helping individuals and couples focus on breaking down barriers, reducing shame, and empowering people to embrace their desires and relationships with confidence. Hi, I'm Coralie. I live in the Vancouver area. I'm a married mom of two, half empty nesting, one in, one out. And my secret power is I love a good rabbit hole. I love digging deep and finding the truth or the root cause of a situation.
And I'm Amber. I live in Ontario. I'm married. I'm a mom and a GMA. And an unapologetic quality of mine is I weed through the fluff and I get to the point.
I love it. I am Vicki. I'm in Manitoba. I'm divorced and I'm re-entering the relationship space. I'm a mom to two grown-ups, and my magic is making meaningful connections and relationshiping, which of course creates trust. All right, ladies. So tell me, blowjobs. Are you in? Are you out? Do you do it? Do you
I'm
like
out.
it?
I don't really like them. But I'm out. I'm just, it's not my favorite thing to do. I'll do it once in a while.
Yeah. We get it.
But they have to be super, super clean, like just out of the shower, super clean. It's just a thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm in, but I have like a checklist. And not just the same thing as Amber. I'm a germaphobe, so it has to be clean. If we've had a couple drinks, then that's different. Suddenly I'm not such a germaphobe. But also, if you've pooped that day already, I just don't want any germ contamination. And I also, too, have a very small mouth. Like my dentist has said so. He's like, you have a really small jaw. So I'm like,
Yeah,
sorry,
we've heard
my
that
mouth
before.
is so tiny. But I have TMJ and I get jaw cramps a lot. So it actually is something that can cause irritation and pain sometimes. So while I do it and I enjoy doing it, it's not every day. But I will say when I do it, I go all the way. I go to the end. I'm in for the end game.
All right. Well, I hate to say it, but I'm all in all the time. I mean, cleanliness is important, and I think that's kind of a no-brainer. But yeah, just on a silver platter, please.
I feel like we're like Goldilocks right here. The three bears.
Yeah. It's always, and this one's too easy. I like flavor though. So I want to use something that has flavor, that creates salivation, that makes it more fun. And I also like it when I know the recipient likes it. So that makes me far more enthusiastic. So yeah, we really are. We really are three very different women.
Well, no one buys penis flavored ice cream. So
Absolutely not. No.
flavor's good.
Bring on the flavor. I like the flavor too.
Yeah, totally. That's so funny. All right, let's talk some facts. Fellatio or oral stimulation or oral play or blowjobs of the penis. It's a form of sexual expression that can build intimacy, it can enhance pleasure, and it can really strengthen trust in a relationship. I mean, when your mouth is on their most important part.
They're trusting you not to go bite.
Right? But again, there's definitely some things that you're going to want to put into play that are going to be really key to making sure that it's good for both of you. And of course, one of those things is consent. I am a huge advocate for consent. I want to give it. I want to receive it. And then it's, no holds barred. But consent is an important piece, of course, to build that trust, and it will increase the intimacy. Everybody wants to know that they are in a comfortable situation with someone who's going to listen and hear them if something doesn't quite go right. Before diving in, you kind of want to make sure that both you and your partner are comfortable discussing likes, dislikes, and boundaries. And I have a firm belief that if you cannot talk about it, you sure as shit shouldn't be doing it. So I think that's a really important piece is, figure out what you like, figure out what you don't like. What are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? If they hold you in a certain way, does that make you feel good or confront? Everything needs to be talked about, and it's not a buzzkill. And if it is a buzzkill, you're with the wrong person, right? You've got to have the conversation.
Yeah. And I think too, with the conversation, it's not just about what your partner likes, but it's about what you like as the person that is giving it, because some women want their head
Oh, I
pushed
saw you doing
towards
it.
it,
I was like, she's going for it. Yeah.
and some don't. For some, that's like, you can put your hands through my hair, you can touch my head gently, but don't force it. You got a small mouth, you're going to gag.
Right? Don't make me gag. I'm out.
Don't make me gag. And there
Yeah.
has been, I'm sure you guys have all heard it from your clients where a woman has vomited because of that, right? So
Absolutely.
that's
Nobody
going
wants
to kill
that.
it. I'm going to
Just
kill
kill the
it.
mood.
Right. If I could just play devil's advocate, little gag is okay for some people, and it does, and it can increase some more salivary content. So that can make it a little slippery, a little sloppier, and that makes it more fun for everybody. But again, if gagging is off the table, that needs to be prefaced in the conversation, right?
Yeah. And for some penis owners, they like the gagging. They like the sound of it. It makes them feel all sorts of things. So you can pretend gag if
Sure
they
can.
like it.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, if it's the audio that's required in order
Right.
to make this pleasurable, yeah, I can make that happen for you. Sure, whatever, right?
Mhm.
Like,
But
yeah,
it
and
comes back to the communication, right?
Right.
it's exactly right. Also, remember that sexual health, of course, including oral play, is a shared responsibility. So you want to be using protection when necessary to reduce any risks of STIs. And of course, adding flavor, like I mentioned, it's a great way to sort of amp it up, make it more pleasurable for you, which in turn makes it more pleasurable for them. The giver and the receiver both have to be happy in this environment. So warming and flavored lubricants can increase intensity and excitement. And of course, you want to make sure that they're condom compatible. So make sure you know a little bit or talk to your sexual health and wellness expert about what is the best thing for the situation that you are partaking in.
And if you're like, I don't have a sexual health and wellness expert, you have 3 right here.
Yeah, you do.
Send
Yeah,
us
You
you
got 3 right here.
Message us on social.
Yeah.
do. Absolutely. And again, set up and decompress conversations are really important. I am a firm believer everybody should be having a sex decompress. All right. It's those moments when maybe you're about to fall asleep or you're just laying there lazily after the action. Sit back and say, what did you like? What did you not like? What could have been different? What could have been different for me? This is how I feel. Because all that does, let's be real. Watch our first podcast and then watch this one, right? Or watch a first hit of a series and then watch the end. The end's always cleaner, tighter. It's better execution. It's always going to be better. So,
Practice makes perfect.
it sure does. Yeah, exactly. So have the decompress so that you know what you and your partner like so that you can perfect that action. And also recognize that one day one thing could work really well and then the next day it could not be your jam. So that's why the sex setup and decompress can be very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we've covered the basics. Let's talk about the setting. All right. A relaxed environment can do wonders for both partners. So consider things like hygiene. I think we've all mentioned that,
We've covered it.
right?
We've covered
It's
it.
very
Yep.
important.
Freshen up beforehand, take a shower if you need to, if you're out and about. I mean, just find a way to clean up.
A shower is a great place to do it as well.
100%. I'll do it in the shower before anywhere else.
Yeah. Like Chad knows if I'm getting in the shower with him, something's happening.
There
Like
we go.
this is the ultimate clean environment, clean room.
A clean room. It doesn't quite do the ambiance. So the ambiance, you can have that soft lighting, right? I mean, if you want to get in the shower in the dark, totally fine. If you have a light that you can dim, now you've got ambiance.
Candles in the bathroom.
Candles, some music, right? Add some ambiance, that comfortable kind of setting, get that mood going. And position too is really important, right?
Sure
You
is.
want to be comfortable for you and for your partner.
Absolutely. The positioning thing is uber important. Sometimes as we get older, we get a cramp here or whatever that looks like. Yeah. Sometimes it's even the jaw cramp, right? So yeah, just be kind to one another and really listen to one another's body language and communicate in that way. But positioning is a big deal. It has to work for both people.
Yeah, and laying down, if your partner's laying down and you're kind of laying down too, that's really hard to maintain if you're
Yes.
doing it for an extended period of time. A lot of men, like what I've learned in different books and conversations, they like to be standing with their partner kneeling, which can be comfortable for both until you get to be of a certain age and suddenly your knees are like, I can't be kneeling anymore, honey.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, you're right. And yeah, this goes back to some of the conversations we've had as well, where we have gotten accustomed to orgasming in a certain position. So you may be able to start one way, but if you really want the big finish, you might have to compromise on what that looks like. So don't be afraid to move around and tell each other what's needed in that moment. I think that's really important too.
Let's get into the fun part, techniques. Every person is different. So, what works for one may not work for another. So, again, this is where that conversation happens. This is also great to have, like Vicki said, post sex when you're in that post orgasmic bliss. A lot of times for men, too, it's easier for them to talk then. They're just more relaxed.
And they've kind of left it all on the table literally at that point. So they've got nothing to lose by just being honest and transparent in that moment. I think that's a really great point, Cor.
Yeah. So if you've tried a new tongue flick or something, you can be like, hey, did you notice something new? Anyways, one thing that's really important to do is to start slow. You don't bite the whole ice cream cone at once. You're going to lick the top first.
Depends how hot it is.
But gentle kisses, licks, teasing, even along the thighs and the lower abdomen. As women, we don't want them to jump right in, right? If we're on the receiving end, we want them to tease us, tease the thighs, tease the whole area surrounding the whole pelvic region, play with the nipples. Same thing for people who have penises. That is going to create the excitement, the anticipation. It's going to increase the blood flow. And if you're someone who doesn't enjoy it as much, it's probably going to make that final portion where you're actually doing the deed a little bit shorter because you've created all this extra stuff. Amber, are you writing that down?
Oh, damn. All right, fine.
But it all builds anticipation, right? It builds the anticipation. And we know men and women are very different, but we're also very similar in a lot of ways. And that anticipation does so much more. Not only it can create a better orgasm, but it creates a better bond. It creates more intimacy.
Agreed. So focus on and explore on sensitivity. So areas like the frenulum, which is the sensitive underside of the penis, and the head, those are areas that you really want to experiment with different pressures and motions and even breath. So really pay attention to how your partner responds. And that's why I said I love it when I know how my partner is enjoying whatever is happening there, right? So that affirmation is just as important for the giver as it can be during intercourse. And then, of course, paying attention to those motions and then logging them for later. I love that. It's like, that worked. Got it. Check.
Noted.
That's right.
You also, too, want to make sure that you're pacing yourself. Alternate between deep throating and shallow throating, go high, go low. And don't, you can get into a pattern for a bit, but keep it exciting. Switch it up a bit. You can also use your hands at the same time with synchronized stroking to go up and down the shaft while your mouth is focusing on the head. That can be really helpful for you, too, if you have a small mouth or
Yes.
TMJ, especially if you have a lot of lube there. It's going to feel really good for your partner, and it's going to be different. It's not like you're just like, ooh.
Yes. Wow. We also have some tools that can really help to aid in that, right? So it can really help to create a scenario where your partner shaft can be feeling all of the sensations while you only are focusing on the parts that make it most comfortable for you. So don't be afraid to experiment and bring different things into the scenario and just test drive them, see how they go over.
I'm an advocate for the sleeve. If you've got a sleeve that you could use during it, then you're not putting it all in. You're
That's
just
right.
playing with the tip. So have an open-ended sleeve, you're good to go. If you're like me.
I'm really glad that we prefaced this with are you pro or con? Because I'm just laughing because it's so funny how our perspectives are so different based on our wants and our needs and our desires, right? And I think that while we're laughing about it, I think that it really does provide a really good overview of how we each respond and how others are responding, because we're not unique, right? There's umpteen many people who are providing oral to people that have the same opinions as I do, Cora does, Amber does, right? So I just think that's so important to recognize that how we respond, what we use, what we do, how our partners respond, all of that is very common based on whatever our needs are.
Yeah, if you're in a relationship with a penis owner, they may really want to have oral and want you to give them a blowjob. And maybe if you're like me, you don't really want to all the time
Yeah,
or that
absolutely.
often. It's like a special occasion,
Yeah,
you know?
birthdays. Happy birthday.
But there are times, there's tools that can help you do
That's
it
right.
without feeling like it's a job.
Right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
So again, using your tongue, using your mouth, using your hands, playing around with positioning and what that looks like is going to be really, really important. And of course, back to the sex decompress, my favorite thing in the whole wide world. Communicate, check in with your partner during as well as after. Pay attention to verbal cues and body language. They can really guide you towards what feels best. And then really listen when you're doing something and your partner feels like they're almost there. I think for men, that's a little different than for women. For vagina owners, we're like, I'm almost there, but it still could be 10 minutes. But for men, for people with penises, if they're almost there, yeah, they're probably almost there. So you might want to continue with what you're doing because that's really working if you want to be done, right?
Mhm.
And if you don't want to swallow, get ready to get off.
That's right. You got to do the Dug and Weave. I get it.
I also think too, you don't want to forget about the friends that are down there because it's not just a penis.
Thank you for
Mhm.
going there.
Yeah, there's a couple little round fellas hanging out there that they are so sensitive. There's so many nerve endings in the testicles. And if you just are caressing them gently or even sucking on them, putting them in your mouth, if you have nails, I'm not saying scratch them, but you know that really light touch, if you do it on your arm and it gives you the goosebumps, like that sort of stuff, that is really enjoyable for a lot of men as well. And it just enhances the entire experience. So
Absolutely.
it's not just the penis.
Not ignore the back door though, because
Yes. Thank you. Oh, hey, man.
sometimes you just got to move a finger back there. And there are so many nerve endings back there. And men, if you're listening, do not
Yes.
be afraid of the finger. I'm telling you, you may enjoy it.
And that space, that perineal space, I know y'all calling it the taint, that spot between the testes and the backside, that again, very nerve rich. It's a very important place. And just a little vibration or pressure while your partner is going down on you, that is going to provide some of the best finishes you have ever experienced. Again, communication is going to be key because if you definitely don't want them to go into the back door, you want to be able to express that. However, trust the process.
Yeah. And if you don't want to go in the back door, and that's again where communication is like
Yes.
some penis owners, they're like, no, don't go there at all. But if you take something like this, here we go again, this little Hitachi micro wand, and you're just put that pressure on the perineum, that can stimulate the prostate from the outside.
Yeah.
And the
Bet.
prostate is such an important part of pleasure and sexual health for men as well. So it's going to really give them just that extra bonus star in the orgasm. And you're going to get maybe a new purse, new pair of shoes.
Yeah, I
What's
gotta
on
start
your
doing
wish
this more
list?
That's hilarious. I love that. What's on your wish list? What are we working towards today? That's funny. All right. So, if you want to take things up a little notch, here are some tips that can sort of enhance your experience. And one of my favorite things to talk about is temperature play. And it's not for everyone, and that's okay. We're not talking about everyone. We're talking about what you might want to try. Alternating between warm and cool sensations. You could use some ice, some cold water, never sugar. We do like to make sure that we're maintaining a good pH everywhere. Definitely something that's just going to sort of change it up a little bit. It can really be a fun surprise.
Yep. Edible lubes too. I mean, like we've already mentioned, you can get lubes or even just gels that provide that heat, or they can provide that cool tingle, or they can provide just an extra bit of stimulation. And it's always nice to get some fun flavors in there. And we know it can be hard to find because a lot of times they're going to have this really weird aftertaste. And that's why we're always talking about stuff that doesn't have sugar in it, because sugar and a lot of those fake sugars are the biggest culprits for that yucky aftertaste, right? You want something that's actually going to taste good, like where you'd be like, I would even put this on my ice cream. That's how you know it tastes good.
You pulled it out for the ice cream that night.
Yeah.
Who knows what's about to happen?
I've had women in the shopping room with me and, talking to me about whether or not they want to bring lube into their oral play. And I just think it's something that's so important because there's lots of things that happen. So you've heard from a good gamut of how much we like to provide oral, or if we'll do it because, we need to, or we want to once in a while, whatever that looks like. Oftentimes we lose some of our inhibitions and decide that that's going to be the day that we're going to do the thing, right? So maybe you've been drinking a little bit, maybe you've been partaking in a little, whatever that looks like, it often gives us dry mouth. And there's nothing worse than when you come in hot with a dusty blowjob. I'm just saying, there's nothing worse than that. So that's
I was like, what is you know what?
You know what? If you're smoking some weed, or you're drinking some wine,
or eating a gummy. Yeah.
Or you're eating a gummy.
It's legal.
It dries out your
Congestants. Come on, let's be real.
Yeah. It dries out your mucous membranes, right? So then all of a sudden you're in this position where you're just sort of like, oh, I need a hand, right? I need a hand up. Edible lubricants that are safe for your bodies. It's kind of a fun ad. It does help to activate those salivary glands when something tastes good in our mouth. I just think that it's important to remember that sometimes it's actually not just for pleasure, but it's also for safety.
And also too, for enhancing, I know we talked about toys a little bit already, but they are great to bring in. You don't have to just use them on the perineum. You can take a little wand and rub it up and down the shaft. The tip is generally going to be more sensitive. So, have that conversation with your partner. But using those toys and bringing them in are just, again, creating that variety, that difference, that little bit of extra zhuzh that's going to make it mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
Yeah. And I think you said something really important to talk to your partner because, again, everyone likes a different kind of touch. Some people like a really heavy touch. Some people like a hard touch. Some people don't mind if you smack it. I don't know. I'm just saying. Okay. Everyone is out there. Every kink is out there. So that conversation has to be had so that you're meeting the need, right?
100%. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think also too, for anyone who has never brought a toy into the bedroom for themselves and you want to, but maybe you are feeling like maybe it's a hard conversation to have with your partner. If you get something like a wand, you can bring it in as in, this is not just for me. This is for us. And let me show you how I can rock your world with it. And then you show me how you can rock mine.
Yes. That's so fun.
Mic drop.
I love that. Mic drop.
Oh my gosh.
As with any intimate act, how you end matters too. So if your partner reaches climax, be prepared to handle it in a way you're both comfortable with, whether that's swallowing, not for me, spitting, or redirecting. All right. Remember, there's no right or wrong way here. All right. Just what feels good and consensual. So if you try it once and you're like, honey, that ain't for me, make sure that they're respecting that boundary.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's an important conversation to have too. If you're someone who does not like to swallow, ask your partner what they like, because what I think and how I relate it in my brain is if the tables were turned and I was about to orgasm and he just went, whoop, it would completely decrease the intensity of that orgasm, right?
Right.
So just have the conversation, because you don't want to have them be like, oh, it was so great, and then the orgasm kind of fell flat. If you're not going to swallow, or maybe if your partner doesn't like swallowing, find a way where you can make sure you're still ending with a bang.
Exactly. Agreed. I mean, it could be on you, really. Yeah. It could be like redirecting on your breasts, whatever.
Yeah, totally. Or you could hop on pop and finish that way.
That's a good point. I'm just a huge proponent for making sure that the conversation is had, because again, it can change, especially if you're in a long-term relationship. That desire can change. What they
Mhm.
like can change. Our bodies change. So if we're not having the conversation and we're still doing what we did 20 years ago because we're with the same partner, that doesn't mean jack. You could be completely off base and the conversation might need to be had. So
Absolutely.
fellatio is an art. And like any skill, it takes practice and communication and willingness to learn. It's not just about the physical act, but about creating a deeper connection with your partner. And we're dying to know, who do you connect with the most? Do you connect with Amber, who's like, no way? Or Coralie, who's thinking, yeah, I can make that happen with the right terms? Or do you connect with Vicki, who's just down to go? We can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Thanks for pulling up a chair at our unapologetic brunch table today. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. It's like tipping your server, but for podcasts. And hey, sign up for our weekly newsletter using the link in the show notes so you never miss the juiciest, most unfiltered chats we're serving up. Remember, brunch isn't just about the mimosas, it's about the authentic connection and keeping it unapologetically real. Until next time, let's keep the brunch vibes alive and the conversation flowing.